I'm going live now.
All right.
I will tell you once it's live. Okay, it's live.
Okay, so should we start now?
Yes, we are live.
Okay, hi everyone, good evening once again. And then welcome back to the second section of the AODI mentorship program. Here with me is David once again, and then we are here today to take you through the application process. That is the step-by-step way to apply to the University of Cambridge. We hope that with today's section, at least most of your questions will be answered in regards to what you're supposed to do at a particular point, what to put in, how do you draft statements, how do you answer even specific questions that require you to tick boxes. So we hope that today will be beneficial and then would help you throughout drafting or putting in some of the key things that you need to make your application good. We hope that this section will last for about an hour and maybe some few minutes. So we will try and go through quickly, and then whilst we go through the procedure, if you have questions, please put them on the chat page, and then after David finished going through the application procedure, I could forward the questions for him to try to answer them for you. So David, over to you now. You could take us through the long-awaited process.
Also, okay, so Andrew, thank you so much for the brief introduction. And like I did mention to you guys, I realized that sometimes, no matter how you try to support students to do a whole lot of things, be it application and what have you, people still struggle to kind of write the real thing. Okay, so I decided that I myself, the way I see learning process is for you to learn with curiosity. So it's something that has helped me in life throughout my career, asking questions, unending questions until there is no question to ask. So whether you want to write an application essay, write a CV, prepare a personal statement, draft a reference or whatever it is. At every point in time, what I usually do is to ask myself the sentence I'm trying to make in all of these things. Why does that question, that particular sentence, why does it matter? Does it support my application in any way? And all of that. So today, all I want to do is to walk you through the entire application process. And the reason why I told you that after this event, that this is not going to be available is that I'm going to be using real Cambridge website, a typical pseudo application. So everything branding in it is going to be a Cambridge brand and all of that. So because of that, I do not have the right, because I did not seek permission to use that to have this program. But I thought that you needed this, which is the reason why I wanted to support you doing this. And so like I said before, you need to subscribe to the channel in order to make use of the live chat session. So we are going to be interacting with you through the live chat section. At every point in time, we are going to ask you questions. We are going to make suggestions. If you have questions, you need to post it in there. But when you subscribe, it will not let you to actually post any comments until after 1 minute. Okay, so you have to be a subscriber for at least 1 minute before you'll be able to post anything in there. So I just wanted to point that out. So if you just come in now and you are just subscribing now, you might not be able to make comments immediately until it's past 1 minute. All right, so what I'm going to do now is to try to share my screen. So we can start looking at a typical application that have kind of started. And I'm going to be explaining every single thing that you are going to be seeing here so that everything is clear to you when you start making your application. Not even when you start making your application, because I had asked you guys to get started. So if you are here and you have not started this application, you are not going to kind of get the best from this. But if you've started this application and you've run through everything, you will see that not everything I'm going to be saying now is going to appear in your own application. Okay, so your application might have something completely different and all of that, but there's going to be similarity. So if you see here, what I've done is just I have started a couple of applications. If I want to start a new application, this is the point where I've registered. Let's say, if I go in here, this is Cambridge website, and then I go to the menu section, and then I click on the postgraduate. I'm not sure what you guys can see. Probably I should, give me a minute.
Oh, I think once they log on to their course, their preferred course, it would give them a link to start or create an application. So yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah, I'm just bringing this in case there are people who have not started the application, because no matter how you try to do things, there's still going to be people who are left behind. So if you come here, you see this is the postgraduate admission page. What I've just done is I moved directly from the main Cambridge website. I clicked on the postgraduate admission, and then here you have the application portal. So if you click on that application portal, then this will kind of bring you into where you will log in. If this is your first time of doing this, then you'll be able to kind of see a place where it will ask you to register. So when you register, it brings you here. If you've not started any application, you're not going to see any of this application that I've started. So you click on the course directory, which kind of gives you a list of all the courses. So you can search, let me say I want to apply for chemistry. I type chemistry. It brings out all the programs that are related to chemistry. And if maybe I want to just look at chemistry PhD, it brings that out. Then I select that. It comes here, then I'll be able to read through and see all the course requirements, the finances, how to apply, testimonies, anything about the course generally, okay? So you'll be able to, it's always good, I advise people, it's always good to take your time and read that application page, that page that gives you an overview of your course, the study program, the requirements, the finance. This is where you get all the details about this particular course. So when you've read everything, then the next thing you click is you just click on the apply. So if you click on the apply, again, this is bring me in here. So it begins your application. You select when you want to get started and all of that, but I'm not going to do all of that because already we've started an application. Okay, so these are some of the applications that we've started. Each time you log in, you'll be able to see two different dates. One is going to be the course date, and then the other is going to be the funding date. Now, I know that most of you who have come on this program might not be able to fund your postgraduate program at Cambridge, which is the reason at the core of our support to allow you make this application. What we are trying to do is to make you prepare a winning application that is going to provide you with funding, not necessarily the one that is going to provide you with, allow you to get admitted in the first place. You can get admitted, but if you don't have funding, you might struggle to actually get started. For instance, if you're applying for a Cambridge PhD in chemistry, my tuition fee is over £30,000. So if you convert that in your local currency, you know how much it is. So many people might not be able to afford that. So we are basically trying to target helping you to do what? To actually make an application that is going to guarantee you funding. Okay, so this is what we're trying to do. So today I'm going to be using MPhil in chemistry as a typical example. Make sure you submit your application by the application dates, the deadline for the funding, not the cost. Okay, unless you have external funding to kind of go for. However, if for anything you really want to make this application, but you were not able to meet the funding deadline, and you think there are other opportunities outside, externally, which you can kind of go for, it's okay. Still make sure you submit your application before the course deadline, and then you can use some of those links that I've provided for you for external funding application, and that is still fine. And so once you log in here, I can move into any of this application. This shows you that you are able to make multiple applications if you want. Okay, and all of them that you're applying for, once you log in, you'll be able to see all the application that you've started. So I'm going to move into my chemistry. And then again, it continues to stress to tell you the funding deadline you have and the course application deadline you have. So you must always monitor this. You can't just miss it, okay? So let's get started. I click on let's get started. These are just basic information. You have your, whatever it is, you are a miss, you're a professor, doctor, whatever it is, you select that. The first of giving your family name, your middle name. Then preferred name is usually what you prefer. Some people might prefer to be called their middle name. Some might prefer to be called their first name. So if you know whatever you prefer, you just put it in there. And then every other thing is just normal thing that you can always fill in. Have you applied previously to the University of Cambridge under a different name? If you have, this would usually target maybe married people. Maybe when you were single, you married, you were in Cambridge with a different name, and now you are married and you've changed your name. So these are the kind of people that this is relevant to. But in most cases, of course, most of you have not applied to Cambridge before, so it's just 0. And then you present your date of birth, which is very simple. So we are not going to dwell on that. And then you still see that in every page of this application, you will always be reminded of the course deadline and the funding deadline. So you can't miss it. This is because this shows you that when you start to email some people to say you missed the course deadline, that shows a high level of unseriousness on your own part. Because if you have always logged into your application portal, you always see that at every point in time. Then give your phone number, which must start with your foreign code. Okay, so you must make sure. I think if you click on this, you say for international phone numbers, please use country telephone dialing code. So if you are from Nigeria, you're from Ghana, and you decided to write your phone number like this, then the assumption this will convert into a UK line. Okay, so if it's an international line, it's always good for you to put in, for instance, those in Nigeria, you have a +234, and use that to write that. If you have a secondary, if you have Skype, that is fine. Your email address, whatever it is, then your contact address, your country, of course, a province, all of this. You fill in all of these things, okay? The home address, if your home address is the same thing with this contact address, you just tell them, yes, it is the same thing. And then you continue. Then that brings you to where you have to give details of your nationality and your visa status. You give your nationality, any second nationality. Do you have, some people have dual citizenship. Some might be from Nigeria and also have UK citizenship, or you have US or any other country. Your country of birth, then has your country of birth being your ordinary residence since birth. So these are for people who have not left their country. And all you have to say is just yes. If your case is different, you just say no. They're going to ask you a question about where you currently reside. Then you can start filling all that in and all of that. But I'm just going to go for yes, it has been. So which means you've not left. Now, people have asked me questions about visa application and your passport and all of that, if that is going to affect your application. The answer is no, it's not going to affect your application. If you do not have a passport at this point, then all what you have to say is just to say, no, you do not have your passport detail. Then it will ask you for all of this. But if you have a passport, you say yes, it will ask you for a passport number, the start date, the expiration, and what name you have in there. Okay, so and then you have here the name on your passport must match the name on your application. If not, please update your personal details. Okay, and then you have the visa detail. In here, you see a whole lot of questions. As a student who is going to come to UK to study, you'll be issued what we call the Tier 4 visa. Okay, so you will only get a Tier 4 visa. The process of you making your application for the visa application will only commence after you have fulfilled, after you have been offered a place of admission and you have fulfilled all the condition of the offer, which is going to include the language thing, the financial aspects, you verifying every credentials that you've used in the application. Your offer, your conditional offer is going to come with what you need to meet. Okay, so once you meet all the conditions of your offer, then the international student, the international office of Cambridge University is going to direct, you don't even need to inform them. They will then begin, they would have told you, if in your application portal, you will see the process of you trying to go through requesting for what we call the CAS statement. So without a CAS statement, which is issued by the international office of the university, you won't be able to make application for your visa. Okay, so if you have lived in the UK before, then you select which other option you have. If you have visa exemption, the whole Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 5, all these are work visa thing. I hold a dependent family or partner visa. Maybe you are married and maybe your partner is currently doing a program here and you are on a visa that is dependent on that person. You just select whatever visa it is you have. I have a pre-settlement visa status on that EU settlement scheme, all of that. But most of you wouldn't have had any UK visa. So you just say, I do not currently have a UK visa. Because any other one you select, I think they're going to ask you other questions or something. Have you previously studied in the UK and all of that? Then you just tell them no. Or if you have, then you just say yes. If you say yes, then they're going to ask you a question about your past visa. Okay, but if you've not, then you have to say no. If you have studied in the UK, if for whatever reason, don't go and say no, because that could affect your visa application when you finally get it. So be honest with your application. That is what I usually tell people. Whenever you're making any application, always be honest with any information that you feed in there. Okay, and then as you progress, of course, you start seeing all your movement. The first section is about you. The second is course application. Then you have the funding application, and then you have your equal opportunities and all of that. So we are still, you can see we are here, additional information. This is just asking you about your gender. And then, of course, because people can now change their gender from birth and all of that, that's why they're asking you this question. And you're not mandated to actually answer this. You can say you prefer not to say anything about it and all of that. Then family. Again, I want to tell you, will you be bringing a partner or spouse? If the answer is yes, please say yes. If the answer is no, say no. Some people usually think that all of this might affect their chances of getting admitted in Cambridge. It's not true. Okay, so will you be bringing children? If the answer is yes, you have to say yes. But what this means is that it allows the international office to also start thinking about preparing something to support your dependent visa application for maybe your husband or your wife or your kid if you're married and you've got kid and you want to come here with them. So you need to be open and be able to say all of that. If you answer no here, why the correct and is supposed to be yes, you are going to start struggling at the end when you have made offer to start reverting all of this. So again, Cambridge wants to get people with integrity. You don't want to start lying and making false statements and all of that. Then if you move to the next, this is now college membership. So this is an interesting part that usually get people really confused of what to do. The documents I sent you have details of all this college membership or whatever it is that you want to call it. I've detailed how what kind of affects people, how people make their choices of which college they want to kind of go for and all of that. I have explained all of that. Are you already a member of the University of Cambridge College? This is if you are already here. If you click on this, you'll be able to see what that actually means. If you have been a member of a University of Cambridge College in the past, you benefit from being a member of that college for life. Okay, so this only applies to people, let me say you did your undergrad here and now you want to do a master's, or you did a master's and now you want to do a PhD here in Cambridge, then you have to say yes, that you have been a member. Even though you think that currently you finish your program, you will see here it tells you that if you have done any program under any college, you are a member of that college for life. So that means that even though you've graduated from that particular program, your answer will have to be yes here. Then college preference. Now, when you say yes, it's going to then ask you to make your first choice and your second choice of the colleges that you prefer. So there are a list of 31 colleges that you have in Cambridge, and all of them are unique in their own way. Some of them are just meant for mature students. Some are female only. Some are mixed. Some are undergraduate heavy. Some are postgraduate heavy. So you need to understand all of this. I did send a link that in that place where I explain how to choose a college. You see a link that kind of summarizes the facilities and some things that you need to know about colleges, their renting, what kind of a policy they have and all of that. Okay, so that should be able to support you to make a good decision on what college you want to go for. And again, there is also a link that sends you to a funding page on the university website where you can go and see a whole lot of funding opportunity. You'll be able to also see the funding that some of these colleges have. Some people choose colleges because they think that those colleges have more funding for international students or something, or a particular funding that they want to. For instance, in Wolfson, I think Wolfson have a particular fund that is meant for Kenyan students. So that means that for you to take up that, you have to be from Kenya. So someone can see that now and say, okay, because I say definite a particular scholarship for Kenyan students, maybe I should choose Wolfson. Okay, so these are some of the, you need to be strategic when you're making all of this. And the advice I will give you is better to maximize your funding opportunity. The other things that you might consider, you can always deal with them when you come to Cambridge, trust me. But without funding, you won't come here in the first place. So I always ask people to prioritize on that. Something like Peterhouse also has some funding. A whole lot of colleges have funding internally that you can also leverage on. So make your research and then see which college you want to actually choose. But it's still okay if you don't have the time to start making all of that research and you are confused, don't even know what to choose. You can say no. And when you say no, what happens is that once you are made an offer, saying no does not affect your chances of getting admitted to Cambridge. So once you've made an offer, colleges will pull you out. Okay, you would then be randomly assigned to a particular college. So that one is a must. So don't think that if you say no, there might be a chance where you are made an offer and that you won't get a college. No, that doesn't happen. Once the university have made you an offer of admission, then you must be placed on a college. The only thing that might happen is that you might end up in a college that you probably doesn't like, and then you might begin to say, oh, how I wish that I have made a choice, rather than being pulled into this college, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's about college membership. Then let's look at academic history. Under your academic history, of course, usually they will ask you questions about things that you've done. You can see that here you have up to 5. It's always good for you to start from the most recent academic qualification that you have. And then if there are things that you've got, please upload your transcript up to 5 of this study and all of that. PDF only, maximum 5. You see that I can supply documents. For whatever reason, like I've told you before, if you are struggling to get a transcript, find a typical transcript that your university would issue. Open up a Word document, type in the structure of your transcript the way it's supposed to be. Input the results. The only place you will have a problem is if you do not know what your results are. But if you know what your results are, then you can draft that transcript and make sure that the course name, the credit unit, that you are presenting them exactly the way your university would present that. There's no problem with that because you will have to verify those results when you are made an offer. But it's good to always show the person who is reviewing your application that you are a good candidate. Okay. So type all that in your Word document, the way a typical transcript from a university would look. Please don't try to forge signature. Don't sign it. It doesn't matter if you do not sign it. Just do that and convert it to PDF and upload it in there. Okay, don't try to copy someone's signature as if it was an authentic or real thing. No, don't do that, please. Okay, so just fill it in the way it's supposed to look and make sure that the results that are appearing there are exactly the way it will appear in your original transcript when you get your hand on that. Okay, so start from your most recent and then go all the way down and all of that. Now, if you have not graduated, you can see what you have here, dates to be awarded. Because I have selected June 2022, this is in the future. It will now give me an option to give what do I think is going to be my expected grade. Now, let me tell you, there is nothing wrong with you saying that you are going to graduate with a first and then you end up graduating with a second upper. Okay, just make sure that whatever expected you say here, that there is a high chance of you actually getting that. If you say you're going to graduate with a distinction and then you fall into merit, that is okay. But when you say you're going to graduate with distinction and then you fall into pass, the margin is wide. Okay, so that might be tricky for you to do. So like I say, always try to be honest. Okay, but if I change this, so let me say sometime in this July, which is last year, and all of that. I started this in February. Let's say I started this in 2022 in August, wherever it is. And here I've completed this. Yes, I've completed. So you see that the expected grade, because I said I've completed it, would then change to final grade. So here you have to input the real thing that you have. Don't make a mistake about it. Okay. And then that your transcript, you need to upload it in here. Of course, if you have more than one academic history, you need to add more and all that. Okay. Okay, this is giving a problem. No. So and all that. So please don't leave this expected grade vacant. Okay, don't leave it vacant. Make sure you fill in that. And it's always good, of course. Even if you're a merit candidate, you can put distinction in there. But when you are a pass candidate, that's where I wouldn't advise you to use distinction, because you don't want the difference between what you actually graduate with and what is going to come up to be that high. Okay. And then if let's assume that you're in your final year and you have your results, you have only seen your results from first year to third year, from first to second, whatever it is. You don't have the result of your recent grade, your recent class. It's fine. Just upload the result that you have. Okay. So they want to judge you based on what you have. I have someone who did mention that he has a first and second year results, but he doesn't have a second and fourth year. And he felt that third and fourth year are better than first and the second. So I understand that, so it's tricky. The only thing I can advise on that is if you know what, because for you to say that they are better, that means that you know what they are, right? So maybe you have the official transcript of your first year and second year, but you don't have third year and final year. So all you have to do is look at that official transcript, look at how it was made, then typeset that in a Word document. You can decide to then type the entire transcript in a Word document, including your second and your final and your fourth year, the grade that they are, the way that they are presented, convert it to PDF and then upload them. Just make sure that whenever the time comes for you to verify that every single thing you've added there will be exactly the way it is in your official transcript. If they are not, you could actually lose that offer. Okay. Then I confirm that I have disclosed all previous and current study, complete and incomplete. Okay, so this shows you that they also want you to talk about the incomplete one. So sometimes the problem people have, you see, here in the UK, let me give you an example. If I am doing a master's is 1 year in UK. I start in October. Okay, the same October that I'm starting my master's is the same period of time that application for PhD is on. So even before I begin my master's, if I have an offer to do master's in PhD in Cambridge, the application for PhD would have opened. So you see people who have not even started their master's because application opened in September. You see people who've not started their master's and they are already applying for PhD. Now, I imagine that I'm doing a master's in Cambridge and I want to do PhD. At the end of my master, this is the time I start making the application. All right, so I'm still in my first term and then I'm already making the application for my PhD. So I wouldn't have a single result, right? I'm not going to have any results to put in here. Okay, so, but I'm still going to guess and then say, this is going to be my expected grade and all of that. Okay, so it's totally fine.
All right, David, let me cut you in right now. It seems someone is kind of asking a question.
Okay.
Someone was asking whether with this academic history, is it good to add your high school degree or certificate, your high school certificate?
Okay, I think it depends on what you're applying for. Okay, if you're applying for masters, it simply means that you can see that this can take up to 5. If you're applying for masters, it simply means that the only thing you have that is tertiary is going to be your undergraduate results. Okay. Now, I always tell people, be strategic with your application. If your high school certificate is an excellent certificate, you can go ahead and include it. It's completely fine. But if your high school certificate is not an excellent certificate, please forget it. Just dwell on your undergrad. Okay, if you're an A-star person or AAA person, it's fine. You can include that in there. But if it's not, if you are a couple of B and C and 1 or 2 A's to that, it's not that interesting, to be honest. Okay, so forget about it and concentrate on your undergrad.
Yeah, that's great. So that answers your question, Ken. So I hope you are answered now. All right, now we could move on.
All right, great. So then at the end, do you have any academic awards to provide? If you have them, you say yes. Once you say yes, it gives you option of what to write. The award name, what is the reason that you've been awarded? Let's say you're a best graduating student, you just a best graduating student, faculty of, I don't know, medical sciences. What is the reason? Because you were the best graduating. Now, I want to mention something. When you want to write this reason for the award. Now, let's assume that you are the best graduating student in your department, and let me say in your school as a whole, and then your school, your graduating said there are 5,000 people that graduated. On that reason for the award, it is good for you to show the strength of that award by saying the reason for the award is because I was the best graduating. My faculty, for my school. I can go ahead and in here, I will say 1 out of 5,000 graduating students. Okay, so if I remove this, The reason for the award is very casual. Someone can just read it and walk by. The person might not even shout whoa or something. But if I include 1 out of 5,000 graduating students, the person, whoa, like you beat 5,000 students to be the best. Okay, so it's always good to strengthen your award, to tell people, so people can understand the strength of your award, right? Then the date it was awarded. Then the tricky part is this award value. Of course, the standard of living is very low in developing countries compared to already developed countries. Okay, so here, maybe as the best graduate, maybe you got, if you're a Nigerian, you got, say, let's say 10,000 naira, if that is even possible. And even if it's 100,000 naira, that is even less than 200 pounds. Well, if it's 10,000 naira, that is less than 20 pounds. So you see, writing 20 pounds to a British person who is going to be reviewing your application, the person might question what is the value of this award. Okay, so under that circumstance, you see, that is why it's made optional. When I was applying, I ran away from giving those values. Okay, unless the value is really worth it. Okay, for instance, I learned a Lagos State, I think Lagos State government, no, not Lagos State, was it Osun or something, gave a best graduating student from one particular school like 2 million naira and all of that. So under this condition, even when you convert that into pounds or whatever it is, you still have huge amounts of money, right? So you can proudly input that in here. But when you convert your own into pounds and you see that it's around 20 quid, 10 quid, or this kind of thing, there's no need, because putting it in here, the person is not going to understand that this is how the level that you are at your respective country and all of that, okay? So you continue to add any academic result, that any award that you have. Okay, and then we move next to the real thing, I guess, which is the reference request. Again, this is very easy. You just input the name, the email address of those people. I've just not used anything in particular because I'm not sending this out. And I've just ticked, please tick the box if reference has no email. Okay, I've just ticked that because I don't want to go through the stress of that. But again, if you have references, it's always good to put them here. Now, I want to say things about references. Why we are not going to be writing references here is very important that you understand how to maximize your chances. Your reference is one of the most important criteria that you'll be judged upon, which is what a second person other than you yourself is saying about you. So it's a very important part of application. At some point, people have reached out to me to say, will you be able to help me write reference? Don't do that. Don't ask someone like me because you think I'm in Cambridge to help you write references. I just told you that if you are successful, you are going to see me in the streets of Cambridge, like next year, if I'm still a student, that kind of thing. So imagine it's just like asking your fellow student to write you a reference. Okay, so if you have a professor who can write you a reference, that is fine. But if you don't struggle about it. Again, there's usually this dilemma of choosing a professor or choosing a doctor who can make out time to write a winning reference for you. So if you can find a professor who can write a winning reference for you, that is awesome. But if you have to choose between a professor and a doctor to write a reference, and you think the professor will not have the time to write a winning reference for you, then go for the doctor. Sometimes, some people will tell you, draft the reference and I will look at it, make some corrections and all of that. Why that is good? Sometimes people think that it's an okay thing to do, and they think that they are at advantage with that, so they can write anything they want. But the honest truth about the matter is that at your level, you can't compare a reference you write. Just imagine if you are the person trying to write this reference for another person. You can't compare the reference you are going to write as an undergrad or someone who just finished undergrad with reference as someone who is a doctor or a professor that has gone through the academic years and levels you are trying to pass through to get to where he or she is. You can't compare the reference that will be written by these two people. So what I usually advise people is, even if the person have asked you to write this, try to see if you can get someone really above you to look at that reference. Okay, so you look at reference and then you see if you've written something. You might think you've written a whole lot of things about you, but the language and the way you structure your reference matters. Okay, not necessarily the structure, but how you are presenting those things that you are saying, the language, okay, matters a lot. Are you generalizing? Are you busy praising yourself and saying you are a hardworking student, you are a resilient student, you are an excellent student, without specifically giving examples of what you've done to showcase those things? Okay, so maybe if you have some time, I might come back to that to give it typical examples, but anything you are writing, your reference or whatever it is, please ask the person that is writing your reference not to use templated references. The person needs to structure that reference to compete with other references that are coming to Cambridge. So make sure that this person takes time to actually write this reference for you. Okay, and if the person is the kind of person that asks you to draft the reference, it's fine. But if you think the person is going to write that reference on their own, please send your bucket CV to them so they can have a glance and see the things that you've been involved with. A bucket CV is a CV that has entirely everything you think you've done that can possibly come in a CV. So it doesn't matter, because again, when you are making an application, you structure your CV to suit the application you are making. But this bucket CV is not a structured CV. It's a CV that has everything that you've ever done. Okay, so this person can just read through and then be able to extract some of the things in your CV and put all of that into your application. Which again will bring me to the point of me saying, when you're writing your CV, please focus on impact on those sections where maybe leadership, job experience, whatever it is. Look at impact rather than descriptive CV that explains the role without necessarily saying what you've done. We'll see examples later on. Okay, so take your reference, the person who writes it, take it very serious, and the content, what they are writing. The people, they should run away from generalizing you. If you're a good student, if you're an excellent student, they should make an example of how you portray that excellent student. If you've won some award, if you graduated the best in your department, let's say, they should not just end up by saying that you are the best, you graduated the best. They should go ahead and quantify that best. You are top 1%, you are top 5%, you are top 10%. And if possible, they have number of what that percentage include, then they can put it in a bracket within that. Because someone who graduated top 1%, but you are 500 in class, it's not the same top 1% with when you are 1,000 in class. It's not the same top 1% with when you are 50 in class. So if you know that your top 1% contains large number of students, then it's good to, in brackets, include that large number of students. Unless your top 1% is, let me say, out of 50 students, and you think the number is small, you can just stop again. Like I said, be strategic with what you are writing. You can stop by just saying he graduated top 1% without going further to elaborate what that 1% means. But if your 1% is a strong 1%, which means with a large number of students, then you can go ahead and in brackets, say 1 out of a certain number of people. Again, if you have employment experience, you have to input it here. If you don't have anything, this employment experience will include your internship. I don't know how to put it now. Let's assume there are people who work with their parents' business. Maybe after school, you help your parents in whatever your parents is selling. That is an employment experience. Okay, it's a family business, but you work with it. So imagine if your parents have a supermarket and you help with stuffs in the supermarket. That is some kind of experience. It's going to be the same thing with you trying to get a part-time job in a different supermarket that is not that of your parents. Okay, so all of these experiences are things that are there for you. Okay, so don't shy away from them. Bring all of them, bring them in, internship experience, part-time job, freelancing stuff, some online gig that you have. They are all parts of your employment experience. Okay, so just bring them in there. But if you have some more...
One question. Sorry for cutting you short, but someone just asked a question. The person was like, in choosing reference, someone to do your reference, you said you'd have to be strategic. So if the person realized that maybe the person supervisor at work will be able to provide him with a strong reference as compared to his lecturer in school because in the department, who do you think the person should go for?
The supervisor is supervisor at work, is it?
Yes, at work.
Okay, now for the reference, there are two types of reference you are going to be providing. There's going to be an academic reference, and if you're applying for GATES, you have what you call a personal reference. Okay, so for the personal reference, which is coming from GATES, I will suggest that your supervisor who is going to write a stronger reference, write that personal reference. Now, for the two other academic reference, I will include, you have two people, but there are two chances. Your advisor can write one, and then your supervisor can write the second one. That is if you are not going for the GATES, okay? You can find two people in academia to write your first two references. But if you are going for GATES, you can find two people to write your first references and then let your supervisor write the personal reference. But if you're not going for GATES and you just want to fill or submit only two, and you think, okay, you have three people to choose from, and two of them are academics, and one person is your supervisor, which is not an academic setting. That supervisor of yours should be able to say stuff about your academic qualification. So under that condition, I can decide to mix up what I do. I can ask one of the academic person to write me one academic CV reference. And then the second person, I can ask that person to write me the second academic reference on one condition, that that person should also be able to say stuff about my academic qualification and research. And it will depend on the kind of work. If the nature of your work is a research work, then even though that person is your supervisor, he will still be able to write about your research prowess, which is something that has to do with academic. But let's assume that you only work as a salesperson in a certain supermarket and you have a supervisor. This person will not be able to comment on your academic qualification. So it's a bad idea for such a person to write your academic reference. So again, it depends on the nature of work you're talking about and what reference you are also referring to. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to just say no because we don't have time for this, and then progress to the next page, which is now where you start talking about the English language. Okay, now we've been talking about all of this. We have list A countries, which are the people that you wouldn't need any to provide anything. Once you're from these countries, your English language is met automatically. But there are other people from list B, which are not met automatically, but you can apply for a waiver. So if your country is here, then you don't have any problem with English. If your country is here, you have just small problem. If your country is neither here or there, then you have a big problem. That is where you have to then definitely provide a language test. But I usually tell people, it costs money to register for language tests. So you want to make sure that you are going to be coming to Cambridge before writing it. If Cambridge is the only place you're applying to that requires you to provide that. So the first say, I have recently studied for 3 years, blah, 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 list A. If that is you, you can put that. I have completed an approved language test. I will provide a result. Before you click on this, make sure that the results you have meets the eligibility, the standard of result that your department is asking for. So you've met the score. If the result you have does not get to the score, please don't click this because you will need to retake it. If you have taken it, but you don't have the results, you select that. And if you have taken it before you do not meet the cutoff mark, it will be ideal to select I'm planning to book and approve a language test and will provide the results when it is available. Now, there are some departments that might want you to, I think economics, for instance, would definitely want you to submit a GRE test score before your application can be judged. Okay, so that is completely different from this. So under that condition, I have not opened the economics application form. I don't know what it looks like. So under that condition, please follow what that department wants you to do. But let's assume that you have a different case, because some people will say, my country is in list B. Should I select the first one? When I was applying, I didn't select the first one, even though my country was in list B. I just selected this, order, please give information. And then here, what I just said that I'm from Nigeria, which fall into list B country. However, the medium of learning in Nigeria from primary through secondary to tertiary education is in English. And I have done 12 years education in English. So I possess whatever English language requirement that is going to allow me to complete my PhD in Cambridge. That is it. That is all what I wrote here. And I moved on. So what happened was when I was made an offer, the language tests on their own reached out to me to, just to test if what I've written here, if my claim is correct. And they just give me, say, simple test really is easier for you to pass that compared to writing a typical TOEFL and all that stress. It has a comprehension passage, you read and you answer question that follows. You listen to some kind of audio and then you answer question that follow. Then they give you some kind of a prose written, some kind of research statement and ask you to write it in a way that a researcher should write, which is just basically a reported speech. Okay. And then, you write a reported, there is no use of pronouns. I did this, I did that. For instance, if you want to write how you mix A and B to get D, you don't, in a research environment, you don't write, I mix A and B to get C. Rather, you write A and B were mixed to get C. That kind of thing, that kind of translation from a normal writing to how it would be if you are writing it in a paper. So those are the kind of things that you get tested on. And therefore, the communication part, they'll just send you an email and say, okay, we would like to give you a call. It could be a phone call, Skype call, Zoom call, whatever it is. We're not interested in the content of what you say. What you're going to be interested in is the language flow. Are you communicating? Do you understand us when we talk? Want to see, are we able to understand you? So that is the communication part. They can just tell you, okay, can you tell us a bit about yourself? And then see how you use English to, to illustrate to someone about yourself, who you are, and all of that, okay? So that's the communication part. They're not interested in the content of what you say. They're interested in if you're using the correct tenses, if you're speaking good English too. So that's it, okay? So this shouldn't bother you at all. And yeah, so we move on. Then for chemistry, this is your CV. We've given you a whole lot of materials on how to write CV, but I'm going to just show some section of my CV just to give you an example of certain things I continue to mention when I'm talking to people about how they can write their CV. Okay, like today, I met some people and we were talking about this whole thing. And
okay, before you continue with this, David, someone just asked an interesting question. He said, what if he's a Nigerian, but he did his undergraduate study or studied a particular course in Ukraine or any of the English language countries? How best can he or she present the argument on English waiver?
okay, so there is no straight way of doing all of these things. Now let's see. It's Ukraine, but Ukraine is not in the English-speaking country. Ukraine is not here. So because Ukraine is not here, I can't even make argument for the Ukraine. But let's assume that you are from Nigeria and you studied in English. You studied in English. All you need to do is that you are from Nigeria, or you might not even mention you're from Nigeria. You can say that your primary, secondary,
Ukraine
and tertiary
is not
education.
there. Okay, so that means
okay, I can't hear you, but what I wanted to say is, if you think that your secondary, your primary, secondary, and tertiary education has all been in English, and you do not have a problem with English language, you can select order and then make that argument, okay? So irrespective of whether your country is in list A or list B, let's assume that your country is not in list A or list B, okay? And then you want to, but you think that you have the English language ability to do this, and you don't want to write the exam. There's no harm in trying. Select others and write why you think you need a waiver. Just put it in here. What is going to happen is that the language center is going to look at this and see the argument you've made, that you have always done, you've done your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary education in English. So what they will do, if they think that's okay, they want to test you, they'll reach out to you and test you. But if they think that they don't want to test you and they think that's okay, based even with what you've said, we've seen your country of origin is Nigeria, we've seen your first degree was in Ukraine, we don't think that you will have what it takes to actually come here. We still want you to write the result. When it comes to you to meet your offer, you will get that email telling you what to do, that you need to meet this offer. Okay, so you will get an email that will tell you that the language center is going to consider you. And then if they think that you need to definitely write that language test, they will tell you, they'll reach out to you. But if they think that's okay with whatever it is that you're trying to claim, they want to test you, then they will still test you along. So that's not a problem. But all along is, this shouldn't stop you from making your application. Okay, and you don't need to actually register for this language test if you're not sure you're coming to Cambridge. Okay, unless you have other things that requires you and you think that definitely you have to actually write this test. I hope that answers that question. Okay, so I was coming to this CV. So sometimes you see, when you are presenting your CV, there's a couple of things I wanted to let you know. There are thousands of you who are going to make this application, especially those of you who are coming from masters. You are not being asked to prepare a research proposal. So you will strongly be judged based on your credential, which will include your CV and your transcript and all of that. So you want to make sure that all of these things stand out. Now, thousands of you sending in all of it. Even when we brought you guys on board, you are not up to 500 who apply for this. but yet it was so tiring to read, to screen your CV and bring you on this mentorship program. Talk more of when tens of thousands of people are applying to come to Cambridge. Nobody has the time to read line after line your CV. No, nobody has that time, trust me. So you want to make sure that you present your CV in a way that makes it easy for someone who is reading it to capture your strengths. You want to make it easier for me to know the different section of your CV. You want to make it easier for me to go to a particular section where I want to read and I'm able to just capture what it is that you're trying to say there. Okay, so if you look at each section, you will realize that it looks like in a typical section that we have subsection in them, there are 3 different levels of what I have used here. You see, of course, anywhere you see this black, some people use a straight line. Anywhere you see this black demarcation tells you that whatever it's between there are related in some ways. Okay, so any bullet points under here are all my current research interest and experience. Objective, anything I've written there is there. Some people will usually say personal statements, and then they combine career objective and current research interest and experience as their personal statement. If you're using personal statement and you write any other thing that doesn't have anything to do with career objective, research interest and experience, just delete whatever it is you're saying there. It doesn't matter, okay? Because you don't want to repeat what is in your CV when you are writing your personal statement. For those of you who want to include personal statement as part of your CV, all right? Because even when you are writing a standalone personal statement, we say, make sure you are not trying to just rewrite your CV in prose. So you're not trying to do that. Okay, so talk more of when you have, I was reading someone's CV and the first statement the person made there was, I graduated from biochemistry, all of that. But then you come below that statement, I can see the person's education, biochemistry, and the year he graduated. So what is that statement? What's that sentence doing there? Okay. So then you see here, I come in here, like I said, there are 4 different things that are happening here. I have the first section, which I've decided to bold in and capitalize. But the second level that I have here also have capitalize and bolding. And so because of that, I decided to bring the top one to center instead of placing it at it. So strategically, I have placed my CV in a way that makes it easier for people to comprehend. Now, these 2 levels, I have bolded both of them. So to make it very clear for someone who is reading that this first line is different from this first line, I've now made this all caps and then this one in small letter. Okay, so the position distinguishes this first line and the second line, but then making the first caps and the second not caps, distinguishing these 2. And then making every other thing that comes below not to be in bold, distinguishes all of this from that. And then using a bullet point to guide the person to the number of points I have made makes all of this stand out. So it's easier for someone to just look at this and capture what it is that I want to say here. If the person is not interested, he can read the details. So that's the same thing. Everything under education comes in that way, and then you're able to present it that way. Now, let's look at academic work or some kind of a leadership thing that you're going to be presenting. Now, a whole lot of people, I would say that 99% of CV that I have seen during this mentorship program, you guys focus more on describing roles. You know, as a graduate supervisor, someone will come here and say, I supervised 10 students, I demonstrated practical labs. Those are descriptions of the things that role entails. But in Cambridge, there's going to be a lot of PhD students who are undergraduate supervisors. Some of them are going to be terrible supervisors. Some are going to be average supervisors. Some are going to be extremely good supervisors. Now, if you're applying for a role and you want to boast with the fact that you have experience as a supervisor, what makes you stand out? And the answer is the impact that you've made. So you want to go ahead and make sure that the person who is reading your CV can see the impact, the outcome of that role which you've held. Okay. So in the first one that I have here, I've said supervising. Second, actually, this shouldn't be supervised because your CV should actually be written. This is not my recent CV though. Your CV should be written in past tense. So this should have been supervised. Okay, I guess because it's present, that's why I must have used supervising there. Well, if this has been something in the past, it should be supervised second and third year students offering inorganic and physical chemistry through one-on-one teaching, helping them to understand and adapt. So this is the thing that I have done. I've described that. But now, what is important is not what I have described that role entails. The question is, did I achieve that aim? And if the answer is yes, I need to place in my CV how I think I have demonstrated impact, the outcome of me being in that role. And so that is why if you see this bullet point, the second one, I've said, increased my students' academic performance from a pass to second. So which means those students who were supposed to be a normal pass student, I've moved them to a second upper. And those students who ordinarily would have been a second class upper candidates, I've been able to move them to first class. So they're not first class candidates compared to their previous year before I supervised them. Okay, and then I went ahead to say I received a commendation prize as the best year one practical chemistry class demonstrator in 2019. Okay, so when someone is reading this, you say, okay, this guy is an undergraduate supervisor. Okay, this is what the person has done. But what did you achieve? Ah, wow. So he was able to supervise his student and his student became better. And how am I sure that was true? Oh, okay, he actually received a commendation prize. So you can't compare this with someone who just said, I'm an undergraduate supervisor, and the person goes ahead to say, I supervise third year second year students in chemistry, and that is it. So just descriptive. Okay. So the same thing, if you go in all of them, then let's look at the same thing for leadership. But let's go to the leadership section. I hope I have a leadership. Okay. Selected leadership role. Again, let me use the first one. Wolfson Entrepreneurial Society, founder and president, that kind of thing. Okay, now, when you're president, we know you are supposed to coordinate other committee members to do whatever it is. So people will come here again and start telling you how in their presidency, they coordinated whatever, they did this, they did that. But what is the impact of those things that you did? So I use the first bullet point. So explain the things that I did. Organize enterprise competition, talks, panel discussion, interface employers' need with skill available among Wolfson students. And so what? I coordinated 3 student teams and helped spring up 3 startup ideas from a business development stage, ready for launch. Wow, okay. So you can now see the impact of the activities I've done of what I've done as president. Then I partner with companies to run the most attended. So one thing what I did here was I partnered with companies. But what did I do when I did that? To run the most attended college business entrepreneurial talks to Cambridge with over 300 participants at each. So for many people to attend your program really means that there is something they're getting out of it. Okay. So the same thing, if you go anywhere, like for instance, Wolfson College Student Association president, represented, supported, organized social events, and advocated for students at Wolfson, University of Cambridge, blah, blah, blah. That is what the position entails me to do, which every other president can claim this was what we are doing. But how am I sure? How did you go about doing this? I said I managed a budget of £64,000 and provided these are the things that I provided. Now, can you tell us the impact? How does this affect students while you were doing all of this? I diversified activities from sports or social events and supported 37 student-led society while creating new ones. One of those new ones I created is like the Wolfson Entrepreneurial Society, right? Which you can see I was the founder itself. There are other ones that were created and allow students to do that, which gave every student a chance to engage with others. thereby building the most vibrant Watson ever. So you see the impact of those activities, those things that you've done. Okay, so your CV needs to follow that impactful way of presentation and all of that. So anything you present, whether it's a work experience, whether it's leadership role, we want to see the impact that you've made. Okay. So that's all I have to say for your CV. And then again, when you're writing your CV, especially for those of you who are applying for Gates at Cambridge, please, it's always very important to look at what are they looking for. There are three things that Gates Cambridge, four things that Gates Cambridge is looking for. Eligibility criteria, where are you?
So whilst David is trying to look for something, for those of you who are not reading your questions, it's because those questions have already been answered in previous sections, and then the answers can also be found in the documents provided to you. So please, I'm not going to ask any questions that have already been answered. And then for multiple questions that have been asked, I try to combine them as one and then put it out so that everyone can get their answers from the answers David will be giving. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, then, so for those who are going to be applying to Gates Cambridge, Gates has eligibility criteria. So even though you are going to be asked to prepare a personal statement where you are going to try to tell stories that proves that you have all of these things that Gates is looking for. You want to also make sure that when someone reads your CV, they are able to see that you have that academic excellence, which will just be seen in your education section. And then maybe the class you graduated with, and if you have publications, or if you have had some research assistant role and all of that. So all of that fits into your academic excellence. Now, reason for applying, you might not be able to show reason for applying in your CV. So your personal statement will be able to deal with that. But a commitment to improving the lives of others needs to be present in your CV through maybe the volunteering works you've done, through some charity activities you've led, through some community services that you've led. For those of you in Nigeria who have done your youth service, every youth corps member is usually drafted to a community service. It could be those in road safety, it could be those in sustainable goals, and a whole lot of different community services that you had actually drafted. So it's always good for you to be an active member of your community service, and don't shy away from going for meeting, suggesting activities that you can do and being part of those activities so that you can put in all those things that you've done in here. And then capacity, a capacity for leadership. Now, people usually have problem with this capacity for leadership in bringing them into their CV. When we talk about leadership, we're not looking at only a place where you've been elected into student union government or stuff like that, or you're departmental secretary, or you're a president in your department or your hostel or whatever it is. No, those are not the only things about leadership. Leadership could be something you've led, a project you've led. Okay, as someone who is probably working in a firm, you might have led a particular project for a client or something like that. So you can bring in how you led that particular project. Those are leadership qualities. Okay, and then with respect to a commitment to improving the lives of others. I know most people do internships where they are not being paid. You might think that, okay, you're doing this internship because of the skill set you have to get from it. For instance, I was able to bring in on board about 10 of you or 9 about you or something who will be helping us with a research on biotech, African biotech startup space, that kind of thing. We had an amazing conversation yesterday. Okay, so those people are coming on board to volunteer that time. So despite the fact that they are going to be trained, they are going to benefit a whole lot from that process, it's still something they did out of volunteering. Okay, so you can include something like that in your CV where you show your passion The reason why you decided to volunteer for that kind of project is because of your passion for the African continent. Okay, so you know that supporting the biotech space, for instance, is going to support the healthcare system, which is dilapidated in Africa. And so you thought that this could be one way of you contributing your own quota in order to move this thing forward in the healthcare system. So all of this could come in you trying to show that commitment to improving the life of others. And you can bring that, it's an internship, but you can bring it under a caption where you've said volunteering. Because yes, you volunteered to do that internship, you volunteered to work, you're not being paid for it, okay? So these are ways in which if you're this type of person that doesn't have a clear-cut leadership role or a clear-cut capacity or things where you've shown kind of commitment to improving the lives of others, you can augment all of these things with what you have. I have a couple of people who've shown me their CV, and these are people who are, maybe they are very religious, and while in school, you know, there are people who wouldn't want to go for a party that student union is organizing. If you ask them to run for elected position, that is not for them, okay, because they are probably triangular students. They go from their hostel to class, to church, or to market, and back to all that kind of thing. So even though I wouldn't advise people to be triangular students, get involved in the community where you are. Okay, I wouldn't advise you to do that. But let's assume that you can't turn the hands of time back, right? It's gone, it's gone. You can't go back and try to get involved with a whole lot of things during your undergrad. But you're a religious person and you led a whole lot of things in fellowship. You are a group leader that led the singing arm of your church or whatever it is. It's a position of leadership. Religion is people's part of life. It's people's way of life. So you should be, although don't try to sound like you are making an application to go and see God. Try to make it more official what you achieved. And the most important thing is the passion of why you are doing what you are doing. Okay, you want to better the life of other people. That's the reason why you've led this position, and this is what you've done, and this is how you affected the life of your people that fellowship with you and all of that, okay? So you need to be strategic, you need to know what to bring in and all of that. So because of time constraint, I'm just going to run into talking about career goals. I've read, in the past, I've read a couple of exciting career goals that people have written, but I'm going to try to use this just to tell you what you should be looking at when you're writing career goals, okay? So sometimes people start writing irrelevant things, okay? Like I said before, when you write anything, make sure that each sentence you have in your essay has a meaning. There's a reason why that statement is there, okay? Now I'm going to read this and then try to tell you why this statement is there and why it's not there. Look at the first sentence. It's a long one, but it has all the punch that you can think about when it comes to you trying to tell someone about your career objective. I started, again, some people will start with some kind of fancy words, telling stories that are unnecessary. What you do not want to do is to let your reader to go halfway and don't even remember what the whole statement is about. So you want the person who is reading this to start reading it and know that, okay, I'm reading this person's career goal. And at the middle of the career goal, the person still remembers that what I'm reading is career goal. And at the end, the person also remembers that, okay, this is the summary of your career goal. You don't want someone to read the first sentence and then on getting to the second sentence, the tune of the thing changes and was like, okay, what is it I'm reading again? Is this a motivational statement or career goal? Okay, so you want to make it clear for people to flow with you. So for this, please don't use whatever you see here. This is something that has been used for an application, a successful application. And so if you use this, of course, there is no way for you to even use the exact words. But if you do, this could backfire on you. And there are a lot of people who are looking at this. So please don't use what you're saying here. Okay, so my goal is to contribute effectively to the scientific research, develop quality control and strategic planning objectives, and strive for excellence and their precision at all times in all positions and circumstances, while attaining professional distinction and proficiency for the benefits of the institution where I find myself, my country, and the world at large. This is just a summary of my career goal. The things I want to achieve in life, the role I want to play in life. But if I stop here, this career goal is going to be useless if I stop here. I've not made any sense if I stop here, which is the reason someone is going to wonder, how do you intend to do all of this? What is the tangible thing you need to do to ensure strategic planning objectives, to strive for excellence, precision at all times? This is something I want to always do. I want to be precise in anything I'm doing, in any circumstance I find myself, whether as a lecturer, whether as an industry person, whether as a person in position of leadership. I've just summarized what it is I want to achieve with my life. And then I went further to now explain what that means and where my focus actually is. And I say, where are you? Okay. After my doctorate degree, I aspire to lead research groups in my home country, in my home university, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where I am currently a graduate assistant in innovative research that will place the institution and my country at the forefront of cutting edge. As someone who aspires, so I've not told you what I want to do. So all of these things I've said before is how I want to navigate this career goal. But this is not a specific thing, career routes that I want to follow. I've told you that. And then I went ahead to give you the reason or what I need to do or what I need in order to achieve this career goal. As someone who aspires to lead a research group, I feel I must go abroad to acquire multilateral concepts and a wide range of expertise provided by overseas education. The question now you need to ask yourself is, when you are making an application and someone is asking you, what is your career goal? What are they expecting? Why are they asking you that question? There are a couple of reasons why they can ask you this question. One, they want to make sure what is actually your career goal? What is your dream? What do you want to become? And they want to see how the program you are applying for is going to help you to achieve that. Why I'm explaining this is because this is a career goal for a scientific person. So for those of you who are in accountancy and all of it, this is how you think about it. They're asking your career goal because they want to understand what it is that you want to do with your life and how the program you're applying for is going to help you to get to that goal. Okay, so reading this, you have seen what I want to do and you see that I want to lead a research institute. And so it makes sense that a postgraduate degree is going to help me, to equip me with all of that. Now, someone can still say, you can still do all of these things in your country. Why not just stay in Nigeria and do that? Which is the reason I've gone ahead to start saying, as someone who aspires to lead a research group, as someone who aspires to lead a research group, I feel I must go abroad to acquire multilateral concepts. So that multilateral concepts and a wide range of expertise that is provided by overseas education, which my home education will not provide me. So you have made it, I've communicated with the person, this is my aspiration, this is what I want to do, this is my career goal, and this is why I feel like going abroad to also pursue this career goal is going to help me. Okay, and then apart from overseas education, okay, why not just US? Why not even Imperial College? Why not Oxford? Why is it Cambridge? Okay, so I went ahead to say, this is one of the best ways to cultivate a vitality for research. Of course, this is part of what we are saying. So in order to achieve my career plan, a PhD position in my choosing field at the University of Cambridge would be a great leap in the right direction. I could say more, but there's no chance to say that, right? So you need to make the use of the available thing that you have. So you want to tie your career goal to your coming to Cambridge and why your coming to Cambridge should be able to help you to do that. Okay. Now, I always tell people this additional information to support your application. Yeah, some will say, if you have watched the general section, you hear where Glenn and Alex were kind of saying the additional section. It doesn't really carry much about all of that and all of that. But trust me, even if it's 0.5 marks, you are going that mark that you're going to get from additional information, please utilize it. Okay. So what I've just done here is when I was writing this, there is something I wanted to include, but there was no other place I could bring that in. So I decided to just bring it in here. So I have many academic, leadership, charity, and extracurricular activity award from my undergrad to my National Youth Service here. This further illustrates that I'm a team player who works for the benefit of others, and that I have leadership qualities and academic prowess. My findings in SMM have awakened my curiosity and interest to look the way of computational techniques. So all of this supports my application as someone who was trying to kind of apply for computational chemistry and all of that. Okay. And then still moving on. This is another place that I wanted people to pay attention to. I don't know if I've said, if you attended the first section, you would have heard when I mentioned that Africa for a Dream Initiative have been in conversation with the university to complain about the fact that we have only 2% of Africans among the international students at Cambridge. Okay, Africa has more than 50 countries, and only 2% of international students are here. The other 98% are from elsewhere. Okay, and so we figure out that funding is part of the problem. So we've spoken virtually to all the funding bodies that you have, the main funding bodies that you have in Cambridge. Okay, and so some of them have promised us, and we try to make them understand the reason why some African students don't get some of this funding. Some of them being that the way you will have to weight the activities that a student has the opportunity to do in Africa, it's not going to be the same thing with someone who's going to Oxford or someone who's gone to Stanford University. These are all advanced economy, and what £1,000 means to somebody in the US is not the same thing that it means to someone in Africa. Okay, so we've done all of that. And so Africa for a Dream Initiative, at least among the admission office, these funding bodies, Gates, Cambridge Trust, is a well-known organization, and they understand the things that we are doing. Okay, so we want you, please don't forget this. We want you under, how did you hear about the course? We want you to go in here and select order. Please specify order. So if you select that, it's going to bring in here, please mention Africa for a Dream Initiative Mentorship Program. So when these funding guys are looking at this, they understand that, okay, you were part of our mentorship program. All right, so this is going to be an advantage to you.
Great. Someone is asking a very unusual question, which I think you've already touched on. But let me please ask again so that you could reiterate to them. Can you hear me, David? Oh, guys, it seems David is kind of gone off. I'm thinking maybe it might be due to his network, but I'm sure he will log on soon. But before that, let me kind of answer some of the questions that have been posed on the live chat platform, so that those of you who still need answers to that would be able to have it whilst David prepares to come on board. Now, Prince, you are asking that, can you duplicate research experience you volunteered? You said, can you duplicate research and experience and then the volunteer, what you put at the research and then the volunteer at both sides? I think David was saying that you have to be strategic with your application. So once you put something at one place, make sure in the other section, you try to find other convincing example that would convince your reader and then make them know that you are really doing something well in your particular field or in your current position. So don't duplicate things in the space because you have nothing to talk about. Try to find something. There's always something to talk about. So don't put something under research experience, then you put the same thing under volunteering. It sometimes make readers bored because it's like this guy doesn't know really what they are doing. So try to put a different example. It could be the same, but you try to rephrase it in a very nice way to suit the topic that is meant for it. I don't know if you'd want to add something to that, David. He's asking whether Mr. duplicate.
Yeah, I think you've said it all. There is nothing to add. It's exactly what you've said that I'm going to say. Just make sure you are not someone who is reading both of them doesn't feel okay. You're just repeating something in different places. If you come to the volunteering side, you want to restructure your sentence and focus on a different thing that you've not said under the research.
Okay, thank you. I think you could carry on now, David, now that you are back.
Okay, so we have that. Please don't forget this Africa for Germinative Mentorship Program. Then have you made additional application? Okay, so this is another thing that people have been asking me a whole lot of questions about. If you type yes, this ought to have given me, have you made any additional application to the University of Cambridge or any other institution? I don't know why that is not coming up, but usually when it asks you for more details, kind of asks you for more details. But usually when I was applying, I just said, no, I don't have the strength to start typing stuff like that. I just say no, it's not going to. If you say no, it could be that maybe at this point, I'm not sure what's happening. It could be that at this point, you've not made the application. That doesn't mean that in future you cannot make application. It could be that after making Cambridge application, then you went ahead to make other application. Okay, yeah, so that's coming up. So when you say yes, it's going to ask you what university, what's the faculty, which country, all of that. But for me, I just said no, I just went down. Okay, so this brings us to research experience. Okay, so what I want you to do, I want to see how we are interacting with you guys. I would want you to write in the chat box, in the live chat box, when someone asks you about research experience, what do you think they are looking for? I want you to tell us what they are looking for. Just type them in the chat box and
Guys, we are please waiting for your answers.
Yeah, we're waiting for the answers. It's just that, it takes 20 seconds for whatever we say to get to there.
It seems most of them have gone mute.
No, that's because they've not seen the question.
Yeah.
So the YouTube has not gotten to the place where I asked that.
Okay, it seems Hafsat is saying something. He said with the research experience, they are looking at your publications and then their impact. Jinika also is saying that they want to know areas you have researched on before. Ijiro Jeff is also saying experiences you've gained during the various research you've carried before or out before in this application. Prince is also saying they are looking for research interest areas. Adegoke is saying your skill set, ability to carry out independent research. Ken is saying your knowledge about the problems and how you intend to tackle it.
Awesome.
So it's also saying the research projects I have been involved in, and then the roles played in the research projects, and then the impact they've had.
Awesome. So all that are awesome, and I'm happy that you understand what they are looking for. Don't just start writing without asking yourself, why am I being asked this question? So every essay you are writing, every short statement you want to write, ask yourself, why am I being asked to provide this? So that will help you to know what you need to write. Okay. So here, you've been asked experience. Please give details of any relevant research experience. I'm going to read this typically and tell you why every single sentence I have written here, why I have written them. And then I want you to walk away and start asking yourself those questions in order to help define your own research goal. Now, when I was applying for my PhD, I was applying for computational chemistry, and the research project I wanted to do was to use computational techniques to investigate a class of material we call single molecule magnets. That was my research. So now I wanted to prove to my supervisor, whoever is reviewing my application, that one, I want to research on single molecule magnets. Two, I have the expertise, I have the basic background, the knowledge in understanding that set of material, that system. Three, I have some skill set that is going to help me navigate my way when I start my journey at Cambridge. And that I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to be someone who starts my first year and second year and say, I want to quit my PhD and all of that. Let's see how I did that. Remember, like I told you, this is going to be a typical illustration because my background was experimental and now I'm coming to computational. We are going to see how I have linked my previous background with something I'm going to come to do anew. So I started by mentioning what my current research is. Single molecule magnets, and sorry, I must have missed something. Okay, I think something deleted, but this was supposed to read my current research experience is single molecule magnets, all of that. So single molecule magnets are meta-halogenized MX, spin ladder system, and my focus are the focus of my current research. So I started by telling them what my current research is. This is my current research. So the person who is reading it will say, oh, okay, it makes sense why you want to investigate single molecule magnets using computational means. You are currently working on that. Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. Then I went ahead to tell them what I'm investigating about the single molecule magnets. I'm investigating F to D mixed metal complexes for enhancing the SMM behavior. That's what I'm doing. Then my second project involves the optimization of MX ladder. Okay. by changing counter ions, bridging halogens, bridging organic ligands, and capping ligands to afford average valence states with superconducting behavior and serve as a spin ladder for switching system. Now, for those of you who understand chemistry, you cannot talk about spin system without understanding electronic structure. And because I know that the PhD I'm going to be doing is going to require me to use computational techniques to start investigating electronic structure of materials, whether they are single molecule magnets or whatever, I need to understand that electronic structure. So it's the reason why, despite the fact that what I'm going to be doing is not MX chain, I have to bring in that second research and then try to tell them, this is what I'm doing, so that the person understands that I already have some background about electronic system. Okay. Then, in addition to that, I went ahead to mention some skills that I've kind of acquired. I've acquired several practical skills during my research, which include but are not limited to operational analysis of, I call all these techniques, single crystal XRD powders, spectroscopy, squeege, FTIR, and all of that. The reason why I brought this in, again, you might say, why am I mentioning this? What connection does it have with computational techniques? The reason why I brought this is that when I'm using computational techniques to investigate my material, I can simulate FTIR, I can simulate UV visible spectra, I can work with the crystal structure of the system. So I need to understand stuff about crystal structure. So I wanted a person who is reading this application to understand that from the experimental perspective, I already know how to read and interpret data that are coming from this. So which means if I use theoretical technique to also produce this data, I won't have to struggle to interpret them. Okay. Then in the course of my investigation, I've employed computational technique because remember I told you I have experimental background, but I wanted the person to also know that I have done a bit about computational stuff. Okay, so which is why I said in the course of my investigation, I have also employed computational method of analysis. Participant cannot see here. Of analysis, and then mention some of the things that I have done that have that computational tendency going forward. Okay, then from my studies, I have acquired, these are all the things I have said until this point, are some kind of hard skill set that I've kind of acquired. So I went ahead to start talking about some soft skills. So it's important, if you're coming to PhD, to do a PhD or master's, ask yourself, what are the qualities, what are the skill sets that you'll be required to possess? So when you are writing your experience, you want to bring in experiences that is going to show that you have what it takes to pursue that program. As someone who is going to come here to do a PhD, you need to have some research skills. You need to be able to analyze data. You need to be able to collect those data and make logical sense out of them. You need to be able to communicate that data to a research community or to a layman in the field or stuff like that. Okay, so that means that you can start talking about some communication things if you have presented your research during a seminar, during a conference or stuff like that. You can mention them, they are all research experience. So for my studies, I have acquired the ability to conduct research in the most advanced laboratory, as well as the knowledge needed for understanding single molecule magnets and electronic material. So this person already knows that my experience is going to help me in this particular field, understand the material, the system I'm going to investigate. Then I have learned to correctly obtain and analyze experimental data and to think logically about those results. Okay, it's not about coming to Cambridge to do research. You want to make sure that you are able to quickly understand those data, think logically about them, and make sense out of them. Okay, then I ended by saying that therefore, I believe I can quickly adapt to and become a productive member of any research environment in the world. Okay, so anyone that reads this will be able to see my previous research experience and then be able to judge that I have the skill set that is necessary for me to do the program I want to do in Cambridge. So when you write your research experience, ask yourself, have you been able to communicate that you have what it's going to take for you to pursue that program that you're applying to in Cambridge? Then furthermore, here you say, explain how your relevant experience and aptitude makes you suitable to an independent research. Now, like what I've told you before, this is again your experience. If in the past you've done something in a particular field, we want you to now begin to tie. Here I have shown my experience, but in this question, they want you to tie those experience and attitude to what you are going to be doing. Remember, if you are doing a research, this question is asked for chemistry MPhil because MPhil in chemistry is research-based. Some of you might not have this in your own application, so it's completely fine. But for those of you who have these kind of things in maybe your program is research-based, you are going to see this kind of question. This is how you are going to approach it. After you've given your research experience, ask yourself, this research experience, how is it going to help me to do all of this? Although you're going to have a supervisor, but no supervisor wants to spend all the entire time the person have in the universe trying to make you to understand one thing because you can't just understand. The supervisor is there to support you, but most of the things you're going to be doing are going to be your own initiative. So this person wants to make sure that you have your own initiative and you are able to, with minimal support, be able to carry out research. Okay, so here you want to talk about your past research experience and how maybe in your undergrad, you were able to run certain research program, and that has helped you to know how to go about planning your research, running them, thinking about them, even when you face challenges. This is how you approach them. This is what you have to do. Okay. And then another thing that is very important is integrity when it comes to research. Okay. So you want to make sure that you start pointing out that you understand that even when you are doing a research, that you can hit some brick walls. Things might not work the way you want it to work or the way you think. And you understand that there's going to be a time when such a thing can arise in your research. And you have the right aptitude to understand that and then to devise a way to work around those difficult moments. Okay, so these are the things that they want you to actually place in here. And then for those who might want to start talking about the supervisors you might like to work with, if you have emailed people and you got a response, you can put their names here. If you have emailed people but you didn't get a response, it's still okay to put their names here. But just make sure that the people you are putting their names here, that what they are working on relates to those things that you've claimed you want to come to Cambridge to do. That's the most important thing. If someone is working in voltaic cells and you want to come to Cambridge to do something on steam engine, the person is not going to supervise you, even if you place the person's name here. So again, you need to be strategic. Look at their research. What is it that they're doing? How does it correlate with what you are doing? And then you can begin to write those people's name in here. Then statement of interest. This is like research proposal, okay, but a mini research proposal. So under this place, you want to start talking about the research you want to actually come to Cambridge to do. You want to make sure that you define your passion for that research. What is the knowledge gap? And what it is, what is driving you, what is motivating you to come and do that? Okay, do you have a background knowledge in that field? Okay, and then you should also conclude by talking to a couple of people who are in the department that you think you have the expertise in this particular. So see this as your research proposal and approach it the same way you're going to write a research proposal, but in a condensed form. A research proposal is going to have your introduction or your background. It's going to have the knowledge gap, the aim and objective, and then the methodology, as well as your summary and conclusion. So if you have in your head that this is what a typical research proposal is going to have, then you can then find a way to condense it without having those captions, but looking at every paragraph dealing with these sections of a typical research proposal. Because of time, I'm not going to go into reading all of this. And then, now this is the funding part. Of course, this is probably, apart from these course-specific questions, this is another section where you need to take very serious, okay? Because most of you, if you're admitted to Cambridge, you won't be able to do anything if you don't have funding. So one, all your strategic arsenal, this is where you have to bring them out. Ask yourself, how can I maximize my research, my funding chances? Okay. So now they're going to ask you, do you wish to apply for funding? Like I've told you, Cambridge has a central way of managing funding through Cambridge Trust. So Cambridge Trust has more than 90 partners that provide them with funding that they make available for students to come and do their program. So most of them, you do not need to make additional application to. So this single application you are making will be used to enter you into this funding. Now, when you submit your application, your department is going to rank your application over 30 and then send to the funding bodies when you are admitted. Only those who have been made a conditional offer would have their application forwarded to the respective funding bodies. If you have not been made an offer, that is the end of your application. So it's not possible for someone to get funding without being made an offer. So the first obstacle is you need to be made a conditional offer. Now, when you've been made a conditional offer, you can now remain hopeful of getting funding. Then you now be entered into the respective funding that you've qualified for. So you won't have a chance to make a different funding application. That means you need to utilize this opportunity and make sure that you make a competitive application following all of these things that we've said. Okay, so for sure, you need to click yes, I wish to apply for funding. And once you click on that, it's going to present based on your country, because from your personal information, you filled what country you came from. So based on the preliminary information that you filled there, they are going to then start showing you all those funding that you qualify for. Okay. So the first is going to be, of course, you have other funding that you may have to apply for. Okay. So if you click on this, it takes you to the students, this point. Of course, we have already given you the materials I gave you, even take you to a point before this place where you can see other opportunities. And here, if I write, I'm from Nigeria, for instance, country of residence, let me say Nigeria as well. And then what college? Maybe I just want any funding from any college. I don't care. And I update. It gives me, you see, just only from this point, it shows me 317 scholarships that I, as a Nigerian, qualify for at Cambridge. So I usually tell people Cambridge University have the highest number of scholarships that a single university in the UK can provide. So you have enormous opportunity. All you need to do is to make a winning application. Okay, so despite the huge number of funding you have here, there is still a huge competition. Okay, because a lot of people want to come in here. Some are partial, some are fully funded, some just focus on master's students. Let's say you're going for master's. This is 371. But if I refine this by only the ones that are meant for masters, you see it reduces from 371 to 209. And if I say, okay, I want only for PhD, we get about 224 results for the things that are specifically for Cambridge, for PhD students. So you can refine all of this, and then you can read through them if you want. You can see some of them are college, like Churchill College, whatever studentship. Okay, these are those college scholarship that we were talking about. Okay, so someone might decide to choose Churchill because maybe if you read this, you see that you qualify for this. It gives you the eligibility criteria, what it covers, who they are meant for, and all of that. So that will tell you if you qualify for that. And if you think you qualify for this and you want to maximize your chances of getting a scholarship, you can decide to choose Churchill as your college. Okay. And then you say, have you applied for or secure funding? Blah, blah, blah. You know, all of that. Maybe I say no. Or if I have, I say yes. If I say yes, it's going to start asking me what the funding are. Is it personal? Is it loan? Is it scholarship grant? You know, you start filling all of these other things. Okay. But if I say no, I've not applied for it, just take me straight to the next thing, which is where I start looking at Cambridge Trust. Cambridge Trust is the largest single scholarship body that controls a whole lot of scholarship around Cambridge. Okay. So now, what this wants you to do is to, you have provided a Cambridge Trust scholarship search where you can go and see all the scholarships that are available. Okay. Now, let's say you are from Nigeria again, or maybe this time, let me say Ghana.
Ghanaians don't really have a lot of scholarships.
I see. So you're a Ghanaian and you've selected Ghana, and then you want to do maybe a PhD, you select PhD and you search. So what will happen is going to bring in all the scholarship in Cambridge that you as a Ghanaian qualify for. So you look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There are 13 of them that you might qualify for. It doesn't necessarily mean that you must have qualified for all of them. What you need to do is to expand this and look at the eligibility criteria. What is the condition? For this first one, it's a preference to be given to our applicants proposing to work on projects that focus on African priorities and those who have links to African institutions. So this condition is going to then help you. So then come back here, add an award. You look for those awards, Cambridge Africa. Where are you? This is a scholarship, that is the first one. You say add an award. Then the question it will ask you is for you to give reason. You say, please explain how you met the eligibility criteria. So let's assume that you are working on a research that has African priority. Maybe your work is like investigating the poverty level in Africa. So you can here tell them, I'm working on poverty level in Africa. So this is something that addresses African priority. And there is something else that he added there. He said, and those who have links to African institution. Let's assume that you're a graduate assistant or you're a lecturer in African institution. You can also add that here, and that you are currently working with a particular research institution or a university or whatever it is. Okay. Even for those who have a temporary appointment as research assistant in a research firm, you can claim that that is a research institution in Africa that you are working with. Okay. So those are what they are looking for here. For you to go here, search for, based on your country and the program you're applying for, see those scholarships that you qualify for, expand them and see the condition. Each of them will have a condition, who they are meant for, and see if you merit that. For instance, look at Rowan Williams Scholarship. One of the conditions is that applicants should be from an area of instability or zone of conflict and or have been at risk of discrimination, persecution, suffering, violence, or other abuse. You might be from Ghana, but you might not have experienced any of this because this particular one, I think at some points we have its own separate application where you'll be asked to write a research statement, okay, to back up the reason why you think you qualify for this or why you should be given this. So if you think that from here, you don't think that you have any instability, any risk of discrimination and all of that, that simply means that you might not have qualified for the Rowan Williams Cambridge studentship, even despite coming from Ghana. So you need to refine this and then look at each of these, look at their condition, what they cover, who are they for, and see if particularly it's meant for you. Okay, so the same thing you're going to do that for all the ones that you think you're applying for, you qualify for, you add all of them in there. So if I put this, I add, I bring something else, add an award. So as you go on, you can do for all of them. You look for someone else, all the award that you apply, you qualify for. You can add all of them and then explain briefly. It's just 250 characters, not even words. Explain briefly why you think you met the eligibility criteria. Okay. So that is for that, and then you move forward to the boss of the house. Some of you, do you wish to be considered for the Gates Cambridge Scholarship? I'm discussing with some people, and the time they are not applying to it because they just think it's not for them.
The part which says that you have 55 for students from the US and then 35% for other countries, or 35 slots for other countries. That part alone discourages a lot of people because they were like, other countries, then this one is going to be their competition. But I know some Nigerians who have had this scholarship, so it should be an encouragement to you. Don't be discouraged if you see just like 35 from other countries, because I know a lot of people who have been awarded Gates Cambridge Scholarship and then they are from Africa. So don't think that you coming from a particular country in Africa will discredit you or disqualify you. No, we have Africans who have won the Gates Cambridge Scholarship. So just try. You might never know. You might excel.
And also, I'm very optimistic because we had a one-on-one meeting with the program director himself, Jim Smith, and I was able to x-ray some factors that I think are affecting African students and what all of this leadership thing means for an African context and what it might mean for the West and other developing countries. So he was really amazed by the way I x-ray all of those challenges. And he saw why those things are really challenges. And he did promise that Gates Cambridge is actually doing a lot. But he's very happy that I was able to approach him with all of this and to throw more light on all of this and how this might affect African students. So if you're applying for this, you stand a better chance than people before you to actually get this particular scholarship. So please don't fail to give it a shot. Don't fail to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's encouraging.
All right. So just a brief about what you might want to put in here. If you say yes, are you a US citizen? No, I'm not. So it's going to be just 500 words, but this actually is being counted by character, maximum of 30,000 character. So again, because you can see you have word restriction. So the advice I have is, again, when I went to, where is that Gates Cambridge? There are 4 criteria they are looking for. There are different ways you can start this. Okay. Make sure you are not telling long stories with things that are not necessary. Make sure you are not showing sign of weakness. Yes, you can bring in challenges that you've had, but those challenges are going to impact negatively on your application if you fail to show strength on how you pull yourself through those challenges to emerge victorious. That is what we want to see. not those challenges itself. Okay, so if you want to include how you come from a poor background, but you don't have a way of showing how you've navigated yourself through those poverty periods to emerge victorious as an excellent person, and then to use whatever skill set you have to even start thinking about helping other people who you feel you are better than, your commitment to improving the life of others through volunteering experiences. It's not enough to say you are an excellent student. Show how you've demonstrated that. The awards you've won. It's not enough to show I'm passionate about improving the life of people. You have to show how you've done that. The community projects you've led, the volunteering works you've done, the initiatives that you've taken to make sure that something benefits the other man in the street and not just you. The selfless services you've rendered. You want to bring in all those things. Your leadership capacity. It's not necessarily about the student union election you won and you were able to be the president or the vice president or secretary of a student union, elected positions, appointed positions. No, those are not the only leadership position. A project you've led is an example, because we want to make sure that you have the potential to be leader in your field. That leadership could be leadership in your research area. It could be a leader in the community, someone who is able to read this page, what we are looking for. It explains what they are looking for. Ask yourself, what activity have you done in the past that kind of portrays these things that they are looking for? Make sure that every single sentence you have there has meaning. Quantify them if you can. If you've done something that causes progress to improve by 20%, mention that. In terms of academic excellence, if you graduate top 1%, mention top 1%. It's not enough to say I'm a first class, graduated first class. What if all the people in your set graduated first class? What distinguishes you from other people? Okay, you want to mention your position. You graduated top 1%, top 10%, top 5%. If you have an understanding of the number of the people that your result is higher than, then you want to bring them in brackets and say top 1%, out of 5,000 students, out of 10,000 students, out of 100 students, that kind of thing. Okay, so you want to show passion. You want to show confidence and be authoritative in what you're saying. Okay, so these are the things that the reason why I do not want, there are a whole lot of people who have been asking me, give us drafts of reference, drafts of personal statements. No, you are unique. You can't be me. You don't have the same life experience as I have. You are who you are. There is no two candidates are the same. So Gates is looking for diversity. The things that make you stand out is you. If I show you my personal statement, I'm going to disadvantage you because you are going to start thinking about the things I myself have included in my own, and you want to conform with that. But that is not true. You are unique who you are. All you need to understand is that you need to show impact. How typical examples, how you demonstrated those things they are looking for. It's not enough to say, I was a leader or I led the student union. No, you can lead a student union and all you did was embezzle fund and left. But someone can lead a student union and was able to impact, affect life, make changes. So we want to hear about those impacts you made in those positions. When you volunteered, what did you achieve? It's not enough to say you volunteered for instance, for those of you who are volunteering for Africa for a Dream Initiative. You say, I volunteered for Africa for a Dream Initiative. No, it's not enough. You need to say your specific contributions when you were working with Africa for a Dream Initiative as a volunteer, and what those contributions led to. Okay, so that is what you want to see here. Then there is one additional supporting information.
for those of you who are applying for GATE Cambridge, if you're a master's student, you do not need additional research proposal. But if you're a PhD student, research proposal is mandatory for you. Now, some departments, even before you get here, would have asked you to upload a research proposal. If this is your department, then you do not need to upload the additional research proposal. Now, I want to make something clear. Someone has asked me, I'm applying for PhD, but my department has asked me initially, giving me 500 word count to write about my research interest or my research summary. Would that supplement what GATE is asking me for here? No, it will not. That research summary is completely different. So you must go ahead and still write a typical research proposal for GATE. If that is the only thing about your research that your department has asked you. Now, GATE has asked you to provide 2 pages. Someone is also asking, these 2 pages, does the references include that? No. Your reference does not count as part of these 2 pages. Make sure everything in your research proposal, from the introduction to the problem statement, the research gap, your aim and objective, justification, or what you might call it, methodology, your summary, and your conclusion, all these things should be in 2 pages. Then your references can flow into the 3rd and 4th pages if you have as many references as possible. Okay. And then you have a typical reference that is meant for GATE. This is called personal reference. Okay. So this is the reference that is not necessarily an academic person that will write it. Your pastor in the church, if you're a fellowship person, can write this for you. Your employer can write this for you. Your supervisor in your place of work can write this for you. Your lecturers can write this for you. But when they are writing it, one thing is very important. I know that I think when GATE send them email to write your reference, I think they also send them this link, but on your own, you want to go here and bring in this criteria. Okay. You want to make sure that this person understands what GATE is looking for. Because if the person go ahead and write a templated reference and send to you, it's going to be useless. It's not going to help you. You want to make sure that if I'm someone who is reviewing your GATE application, when I read that personal reference, I will see where the person have explained how you demonstrated academic excellence. And like I told you before, it's not enough to say this is an excellent student, he's a brilliant student, he's coming top in class. No, you need to make sure that this person understands that the person needs to use specific examples of how you demonstrated all of this. Okay. The person needs to use specific examples to demonstrate how you have shown commitment to improving the lives of other people. The initiative you've taken. It could be in the lab that even during, maybe this person is your project supervisor. When you were supervising, he was co-supervising you with our other students. That you usually go out of your way to support other students who are struggling with their research. That is selfless service. Nobody's paying you for that. But you felt like, okay, you have your own worry, your own job to do. But you felt that this other student who you are working in the same lab with is struggling. And you've gone ahead out of your way to support their research projects and help them with what they are doing. That is a selfless service. It's a commitment to improving the life of other people. There are other amazing examples that people can give. How you've initiated things that you do not stand a chance to benefit from, just for the good of other people. Capacity of leadership. You don't necessarily, I've said before, have to hold a leadership position. It could be how you've led projects within organizations, within your community, within things that you've got involved with. Okay, all of that is what you have to think about.
Oh, wow. That's very educative and a lot of information to help us improve upon our application. Thank you very much, David. To those of you who think that some scholarships are very difficult, and then if you rate yourself, you think you fall in the category of 100 and above, please, there's no harm in trying. It will shock you that once you try, you might end up getting it. You just have to put in a lot of work in order to produce a very convincing, argument or statement or something that would catch the attention of the reader in order to be able to nominate you for this type of application. Trust you, in Cambridge, you might be marveled what you would qualify for or what you would get should you attempt to get. Let me give this particular story. During the pandemic, I had this housemate who was a self-funding student. I think David might know him, but I don't want to mention his name. Okay, I can mention just the name we used to call him, Spinoza. I don't know if you remember him. Yeah. So this guy is a self-funding student from Uganda. And then he was really in need of money. And then he applied to our college, asking for funds to, help him out. The college decided to give him a loan instead of free money. Now, when I heard it, I was surprised. I'm like, how can you give someone a loan while the person is a self-funding student? So I decided to apply again, although I was a sponsored student. And at that time, I had not received my funding, but I had some little pounds on me, which can sustain me for about a month or two. But I decided to put in my own application to see if I'll get it or not. So I was able to put in a very convincing, statement, an argument. And then to my surprise, they gave me £1,000 for free. So what I did was I gave this guy £500 just to pay off this loan so that he wouldn't have to, work and then pay off. So you see, I was a sponsored student, but I was able to get £1,000 for free. But he was a self-funded student, but they gave him a loan. So it depends on what you put in your application, how convincing you are to be able to convince the person on the other end to give you what you are requesting for. So don't ever underrate yourself. Don't ever think that as compared to others from other developed countries, you might fall the least. It would marvel you to know that with the kind of examples you give, with the kind of essays you write, you might even be nominated as compared to someone from a very least developed country. It all depends on you, how well you're able to put up your arguments. So I would encourage all of you to try and then put in some effort based on what David has said, based on all the information he has provided, based on all the resources he has provided to you. Just read through, put in your best according to the steps and then the guidelines given, and then you would see that you'll be able to make it out. David, someone is just asking, in respect to college, someone just asked that, is it advisable to choose a college where your supervisor is affiliated to or has a fellowship from? Maybe he's thinking that with that, they might consider the person. Do you have any input on that?
Okay, like I told you, it doesn't affect you in any way. You can be in the same college with your supervisor. It doesn't mean anything. You can be in a different college with your supervisor. It doesn't mean anything. And if you think that, okay, maybe if the college have funding, which you might qualify for, the supervisor might influence it. No, it doesn't work that way. If you merit it, you're going to get it, whether your supervisor is there or not. And if for anything, your supervisor is part of the select committee that make the decision on whether you get that funding or not. And the person sees your name and recognizes that you are his students whom he have supported, who have accepted to supervise. Trust me, the person will declare conflict of interest. And declaring conflict of interest means that he will not be able to make decision on your application. Another person will have to decide your fate and not him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that.
This across. Yeah, when I was applying to the Gates Cambridge Scholarship, I realized my supervisor, he's called Professor Chris Lowe. He was the chairman of the Gates Cambridge Reviewing Board. So I applied for the Gates Cambridge Scholarship. And then during the interview, I asked that, will he be able to put in a word for me so that I gain the scholarship? He told me, there's no way around that, Andrew. I need to go through the same procedure, and he definitely can't do anything about that. But he was the chairman of the board, so it doesn't work that way. It would be conflict of interest, as David said.
Exactly. Okay. So, for instance, I will tell you, when I was the president of my college, usually at the beginning, because before a council meeting, a college council meeting, they will circulate papers. So you know the agenda of what needs to be discussed. So based on that, at the beginning of the meeting, people will know if there are topics where they have conflict of interest. The first thing the chair of the meeting will say is, does anybody have any conflict of interest? So if you have one, you must declare it at the beginning. That, yeah, you have a conflict of interest on agenda item 1. So it's a normal thing. Before anything, even in that scholarship, before any meeting for selection to happen, that we always, the person who is chairing that will always ask that question. Any conflict of interest? And people will say yes, no. Okay, it's very important. So that happens here. Okay, because
I think one last question from Onu, then maybe you could wrap up. Onu is asking that in the academic reference section, it states there that enter a reference of your academic referee who has an institutional email. So he was asking if his academic referee does not have an institutional email, does it disqualify or makes that section invalid?
Is it really possible for an academic referee not to have institutional email these days?
I think it's not possible. Every academic, person should have an academic email or an institutional email.
Let me tell you the reason why they have specified that. The reason why they've done that is that if I am applying, I can decide to be one professor John Smith, and open up a Gmail account with the name John Smith. And I input that. And let me say I'm this terrible student. I can write all these beautiful things about me in the name of John Smith. Okay, so it's easier for you to fabricate new email, but it's difficult for you to fabricate an institutional email. Okay, so I don't know which university that is that wouldn't have their institution having the academic email. Every institution I know in the world have that. So if you have graduated from an institution where there is no academic email, I don't know, you might want to think twice about your certificate anyway.
Oh yeah. I don't think there will be any institution whose employees will not have a related email. I don't think so.
Yeah, even Africa for a Dream Initiative, we have our organizational email. It doesn't take anything to have that, right? Talk more of a university.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here again, you have seen Harding Scholarship. I'm not sure what I have filled that made them to say I don't qualify for this. But most of you you are going to qualify for this. And they're going to ask you to write a personal statement specifically for the Harding Scholarship. It's a very easy thing. Again, like you've seen what I've explained for the Gates Cambridge, all you need to do is look at the details of the Harding Scholarship and ask yourself, what are they looking for? What is the eligibility criteria? Then prepare your personal statement so that when you read through them, you can see strong points, how you've demonstrated all those eligibility criteria. I think Harding Scholarship, we have your academic excellence and integrity, then innovation, and Can I remember the last one? I think there are three things that they are looking for. So you should be able to actually prepare your statement to fit in that. And again, based on the information you've supplied, you are going to see all the courses, all this funding, extra funding apart from the Gatebridge Trust and the Gates Cambridge that you qualify for. And you're going to see if there is additional application you need to make. That information will be there. And again, all you need to do is ask yourself, what are these people looking at? Make your research, look at the eligibility criteria. What kind of students are they funding? And how do you meet those eligibility criteria? Put all those things into that personal statement, if there is any personal statement that they are giving for. Then depending on your department, if your department have got some departmental funding and you're applying for that, they are going to, again, under departmental funding, show you those departmental funding and how to go about them. If you need to make extra application, it's going to be there. And you have to, again, look at the eligibility criteria. What are they looking for? Academic excellence, research prowess, leadership quality. Different funding are going to be looking for different things. So don't just have one personal statement for Gates Cambridge and you think you can use it for Harding scholarship or for departmental funding or for some other European funding. No, always be detailed and be specific. Tailor each writing to what that particular funding is looking for. There might be one or two things that you move from one application, from one funding personal statement to another, but it's not going to be entirely the same, okay? Unless the eligibility criteria is entirely the same, which I don't think is true, okay? So always tailor that to suit that particular application you're making. Depending on the colleges that you've selected, if there are college funding that you qualify for, you are going to see that college funding appearing here. And if there's any extra thing that you need to do, again, that is going to come up here, all right? And you'll be able to follow suit. You'll be given all the details and everything that you need. And then you continue to progress, equal opportunity. Of course, these are optional, but trust me, just select all of that. Fear that, it doesn't stop you from anything. Sexual orientation, what is it? Heterosexual, whatever, disability. Okay. So this is another important point that I wanted to mention. Now, when you're applying to Cambridge, the first thing you will tell yourself is if you have disability, that is going to affect your application. But I want to tell you 100%, having worked with the internal working of the university, I have been part of the innermost decision-making of college council, governing body. I have been international officer. I have been in the same meeting with the decision-making bodies of the university, the vice chancellor, the pro-vice chancellor. Every section of this university I've had experience working with the entire administrative structure you have at Cambridge. So, and I have worked with the disability unit of the university. I've worked with career units. I've worked with almost virtually, I can say, every section of Cambridge. So this is the reason I usually tell people, I feel like I went through Cambridge and I allowed Cambridge to go through me. And believe me when I say that if you have a disability, it does not impact negatively on your ability to get opportunity at Cambridge. Now, the people who are going to be judging your scholarship, your application, will not see your disability response. They are not going to see it. So that means that it wouldn't impact on your application in any way. But there are going to be some support which you can receive as someone who has a disability if you make it to Cambridge. So telling people about that disability here will make it easier for you to get that support when you get to Cambridge. I want you to believe me when I say that in my college, when I was president of my college, there were blind students in my college. So imagine a blind person getting offered to come to Cambridge on scholarship to do a master's program. So that shows you that your disability cannot be an impediment for you. But it's okay if you feel like you don't want to disclose them, it's completely fine. But I just want to tell you that those disabilities are not going to affect you, it's not going to impact you. Okay. Secondary education, where did you do your secondary education in UKL? Again, no. If you say yes, it's probably gonna bring us something for you to start answering other questions. But if I say no, that's the end of it for me. And then next, no disability. And then you come here and ask, do you require any adjustments for interview? I don't know, depending on if you have completed, if you have said you have some disability, you might want to look at whatever it is. There are people who have, there are people who have ADHD, people have problem with focus and all of that. If you have a confirmed disability and you think you might need extra support, then you can make that adjustment here. You can mention that here, and then you'll be considered during the interview. But if you think you do not have any adjustment, you just say no, and then you move forward. Then the next one would be where you have to put up some supporting documents in case you've not uploaded them before now. This is your transcript. This is for your CV, other extra materials. Some departments, we have extra material for you to upload. Please upload your research proposal and all of that. I don't know if I'll be able to go front before. Okay, I will be able to do that. And so that is it. You automatically considered for all Cambridge Trust awards for which you are eligible. You have not identified any award that you are particularly eligible for. That's because you can see in that particular place, I did not identify anything. Then you are applying for a case Cambridge, that's because I am. And so they're just basically telling me that. And so before you pay, they're going to give you application review. So you'll be able to look at this and see everything you filled and things you've not filled. And then you can see, because I have documents I have not uploaded and all this star place, it's not going to give me the icon for me to submit and make my payment. But otherwise, that will be the end of your application. And for sure, you can read all of this and be able to pay for the application fee. And that is it. Okay, I don't know if we have
Thank
any.
you very much, David. It's been a long ride. I don't know, but I've actually learned a lot from this, although which is going to help me with other applications that I would make in the future. And I know you guys have also benefited as well. We've tried our very best to answer almost all the questions that you guys have asked. The only questions I've not asked David, I think those questions have already been answered, or maybe those questions are not worth answering because of time. So I think I would ask the last question, which I know this is the question in some of your minds. Someone will be thinking, when then would it be suitable for us to submit our drafted application for review? I think a lot of you are probably thinking about that because maybe you are done with your drafts.
You mean the one for review?
Yes, the one for review.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned that what I'm trying to do now is you don't need to complete this now. But I wanted to implement mentorship. Like I told you guys, there are 900 plus people that started this. And I'm very sure that after today,
maybe there's going to be only 10 of you that finally submit. And so I'm not going to be wasting my time. Submission review, application review.
Okay, so whilst David is trying to set up the form, I would please like to encourage you to like and then follow us on all the social media platforms if you've not done that. So not only on YouTube because you want to benefit from some of our videos, but almost all of our social media platform because we are going to share some articles or other vital information which you might need, not only for this application, but for other future opportunities that may come. If you also know anyone who is interested in making applications next year or others who weren't able to be considered to join this mentorship program, but are willing to make application next year, you could please forward to them all of our social media handles so that they could click, follow, and then like everything. And then once we post updates on future events, they would be able to see and then participate accordingly. As David said, this mentorship program wouldn't be a one-off thing. We'll try our possible best to make time and then make it a yearly program so that most of you will have the chance to join. And then I hope this has really occasion and has motivated you as a person. As I said before, you might never know what you would get or what you will be successful with. Just try your best, put in all your efforts, make a good application, and then submit. And then by God's grace, I know that you definitely get a place. If not all the funding that are available, at least some of them you will be considered for it. It's also important to check if you qualify for any departmental or college funding because you have to apply for them before you get. Some departments have a lot of funding that may cover you. So should you receive a partial funding from Cambridge Trust, you could add that as a support fund to kind of top up some of the deficiencies in which you may have. Also, for those of you who would have further questions or questions in the future, you could always send us those questions that have already not been answered in the WhatsApp platform, and then we will be happy to provide you with the feedback. I'm trying to see if I have other questions that I've not tackled or touched. Yes, so as David said, if you are currently studying a particular program or course, you can definitely add it to your academic history, and then you provide the estimated time you hope to complete that. You don't have to complete it before applying or including that. Once you are on it, just include it. And then once you are made an offer, you'll be made a conditional offer, then you can provide a transcript or a certificate for that if you graduate before the course start date, and then you would be awarded for that. Please, about the application fee, we've already discussed that we will not be able to support every single one of you with the application fee. You guys are a lot, and then we are currently a non-profitable organization, so we don't really have a lot of funds to kind of pay for the application fee for all of you. So try your possible best to kind of secure some fund. When you get some money, don't just be spending it on phones. I know we in Africa would always like to use very posh phones and other interesting gadgets, but you try to save and then invest in something that would reap you more in the future. And education is key. So once you have some money, you try to save and then pay for your application fee. If you don't have, try to find out from other sources or try to consider other sources. It may be families, it may be friends, you may be taking loan and then later paying back. Just note that this is a one-time opportunity, which if you would get, it would go a long way to kind of helping you secure a very successful future. I've seen David has placed the link of the Google form on the chat page. So I would encourage you all to kind of fill it, and then we'll get back to you as soon as possible with that. So David, how long do they have to submit the form?
Well, this is the form that I want to use to get the information of the people who attended this program. Like I said, for instance, I wouldn't want to start reviewing application of someone who has not listened to everything I'm saying today, because it will mean that I have to start afresh. Okay, so we are only going to review the application of those who have attended this event. So once they fill this form, I will get back to them with the slots. Like I told you before, we are going to make the application review from Friday to Sunday. So any application that is not reviewed after Sunday, I don't think it will be reviewed. So I'm going to send what we call Calendly. I'm going to send you an invite. You'll be able to fill in between Friday and Sunday when you think you have space. But what it means is that you need to make sure that your application is ready before then. I can't click on it. I'm not sure why you can't click on it, but it's clickable. I can read someone asking me about the difference between research interest and research proposal. It simply means you weren't here, because we have already explained all of that and how you have to write your research interest, which I called a mini proposal, or you need to condense it, having in your mind that you've got the introductory part, the research gap, the aim and objective, what you want to do, your methodology, and your summary. We're going to be writing them without having all of these things captioned within it. Okay, so I'm going to delete this form 1 hour from now. So you have to make sure if you are sure you are going to continue with this application, then you have to fill that form. So at the end, I will just believe that the people who have filled this are actually the people who want to continue with this particular mentorship. And so I'm going to focus just on the people. I'm going to create a separate WhatsApp group for them and then focus my attention on them. Please, if you know you are not going to submit your application, please don't fill in the form. But if you are sure you are definitely submitting the application, go ahead and fill in the form. And with that, I think I have to close the curtain. It's been like almost 3 hours talking. I'm almost losing my voice already. So it's been a great moment talking to you guys. I wish you all the best. Trust me, like I want to see many of you here. And I hope that we've built a relationship that is going to support you. And if at the end you didn't get into Cambridge, don't feel bad. I believe you would have learned a lot through the process that's going to support you to now start looking at other opportunities elsewhere. But all the same, I wish you the best. And yeah.